In this video, I'm going to check if the numbers 11, 15, and 19 are pairwise relatively prime. And I'll go on and check if the numbers 12, 17, 31, 37 are pairwise relatively prime. So we have those numbers there. A list of integers is pairwise relatively prime if every pair of the items in the list are relatively prime. Two numbers are relatively prime if their greatest common divisor is a 1. So in this case, we look at all the possible pairs of the numbers 11, 15, and 19 and check their greatest common divisor. So for the first one, we'll be looking at the greatest common divisor of 11 and 15. That greatest common divisor is a 1. So those two numbers, they are relatively prime. Then we look at the pair where we have 11 and 19. The greatest common divisor of 11 and 19 is a 1. So those two numbers are relatively prime. And then we look at the next pair. We have 15 and 19. Their greatest common divisor there is a 1. So what we are having there is 15 and 19 are relatively prime. So in this case, we are having every pair of the integers is relatively prime, and therefore we conclude that those integers, they are pairwise relatively prime. I now move on to the second question. We are now looking at the integers 12, 17, 31. So we'll look at every possible pair and check if every possible pair is relatively prime. If all the pairs are relatively prime, then we will conclude that the numbers there, they are pairwise relatively prime. So the first pair, we will be looking at 12 and 17. So the greatest common divisor of 12 and 17 is a 1. The next pair, we are looking at the greatest common divisor of 12 and 31. And that greatest common divisor is a 1. The next pair is 12 and 37. So we'll be looking at the greatest common divisor of 12 and 37. And that greatest common divisor is a 1. The next pair is 17 and 31. So the greatest common divisor of 17 and 31 is a 1. Then the next pair is 17 and 37. The greatest common divisor of 17 and 37 there gives us a 1. So these two are relatively prime. Then the next pair, we have 31 and 37. Their greatest common divisor there is a 1. So what we have there is all the possible pairs there, they are relatively prime. So what we are having there is the numbers 12, 17, 31, and 37 are pairwise relatively prime.